Hey everybody, Pastor Scott here, just offering our feedback on this last week's lesson about the birth of Jesus. I want to say thank you again for your engagement with the story and with the text and with the video and everything. As I mentioned, this is one of my favorite lessons. In fact, this one is my favorite lesson, and hopefully you enjoyed it as well. One of the questions that we asked was who has the sort of the identity of deliverer in the Old Testament, and you picked up on Moses kind of being that person, the one sent from God to deliver the people from Egypt, and he's sort of the major figure. So good job on that. And then of course we moved into the story of Jesus. Now I really appreciated and enjoyed reading your sort of your own, like, here's how I tell the story from my own memory, and some of the things that you featured and some of the things that you picked up on and some of the things that you included. And then as we went through the story, and then you kind of made the comparison of oh, well, some of these things are a little bit different, and some of these things are present and some of these things aren't present. And you really picked up on that. And the major one, which I hinted at in our video on Friday, or the end of the week, whenever I sent that out, might have been Thursday, I forget what day it was, but one of the major things that I picked up on is the presence of the wise men, which is actually not found in the birth story. That's in a completely different gospel that's present in Matthew's gospel, and actually took place well after the fact of Jesus' birth. In fact, there's speculation that it might have been like a couple of years after Jesus was born before the wise men showed up. So that was a fun one. Another thing that I sort of picked up on was one of you talked about the way that the angel appeared to announce that Jesus was going to be born. In Luke's gospel, we actually hear that the angel shows up and talks to Mary. Now, you also mentioned that the angel talks to Joseph as well, which does happen, but again, that's in a different gospel. That is actually in Matthew's account. So sometimes, excuse me, as we think about all these things, we begin that process called harmonization, as we bring the different gospel accounts into harmony together, and we kind of tell all one story based on the details that are listed in the different in the different gospels. So that was definitely a cool thing that you all sort of picked up on, and a good example for us to remember. As far as some of the strange things that you picked up on, it's weird that they all had to go to a different place to be registered. They had to go to their ancestral home, like you mentioned. Why did Joseph and Mary have to go all the way to Bethlehem when they lived clear up in the north in Nazareth? And why did they have to do that? And well, that's a good question. I honestly don't know, but yeah, that's strange. And the other thing is that Jesus is not actually even named in the birth narrative. And isn't that weird? Like, is when the angel appears to Mary, yeah, it says, you'll name him Jesus. But then during the actual story of his birth, he's just the baby, or he's just the child. And that's definitely strange. But then right after that, we begin to hear his name again. So that is that story. I want to say thanks for engaging with that. One other thing that I do want to sort of highlight, a couple of you on your sermon notes made a little point that I sort of picked up on. And this isn't a bad thing. This is just something I want to try and clarify. When we think about Jesus being both human and divine, this is really weird to understand. And it is, admittedly, I know that it is. Like, how can someone be fully human and fully God all at the same time? And the answer is, I don't know. But that's important that we remember that Jesus is God. He is God the Son. And so oftentimes we say that God sent Jesus, and yes, I think that's true, but that also can be a little bit confusing, and it sort of makes them seem like two completely different people, and in a certain way they are two completely different people, because we have God the Creator, and we have God the Holy Spirit, and we have God the Son in Jesus, all fully God, and yet three distinct identities. And yeah, that's just weird. And it is, and I know that, but I'm glad you sort of picked up on that too, that there is this distinction, and that Jesus is fully human and yet fully God all at the same time. And that's hard to understand, but I just kind of wanted to mention that's something important that we pick up on. Thanks again, everybody. We'll catch you here at the end of the week for our next lesson.